You know that chilling thought that can creep into your head at a funeral? What if the body just moves? It's this deep-seated fear, right? Part horror movie, part urban legend. But what's the real story? Well, let's dive into this, because the truth is way stranger and honestly more medically fascinating than any myth you've ever heard. So let's just get the big question out of the way right now. Can a corpse actually, sit bolt upright in its coffin? The short answer, no. But that simple no is hiding a much more interesting, much more complex story about what really happens to our bodies after we die. I love how mortician Lauren puts it. The fear is that grandma goes from eternal rest to crunch upright like she's got unfinished business. It's such a powerful image, and it's basically burned into our brains by movies and stories. But the origin of this fear isn't fiction at all. It's actually rooted in a very real historical panic.
Yeah, let's go back to the Victorian era. Back then, the line between life and death could get pretty blurry. Medical science wasn't always great at making the final call, and people were genuinely, absolutely terrified of being buried alive. This wasn't just a silly fear. It was a full-blown panic that led to the invention of safety coffins. Some of them even had bells and breathing tubes, just in case. So, while the whole sitting up thing is a myth, the idea that a body could move was a real concern. And it turns out, the Victorians weren't totally wrong. Modern science has now confirmed that the dead are, in fact, pretty restless.
So get this, a major study in 2019 out of Australia's Body Farm, which is exactly what it sounds like, a research facility where scientists study decomposition, they used time-lapse cameras and found, without a doubt, that human bodies move on their own after death. Okay, so why does this happen? Well, it's not supernatural or anything like that. It's just a natural part of decomposition. As the body starts to mummify, the ligaments begin to dry out. And as they dry, they shrink and contract, and that pulls on our limbs, causing them to shift and move over time. And we're not just talking about a tiny twitch here. Over the course of their 17-month study, these Australian researchers saw some pretty significant movements. For instance, arms that were placed neatly alongside the body were later observed to have moved, sometimes flung completely out to the side. Now, this isn't just some morbid piece of trivia. Understanding these natural movements is absolutely crucial for forensic science. It helps investigators avoid making the wrong assumptions about how a body was positioned at a crime scene, and it helps them get much more accurate about the time of death. Okay, so we've established that a body can shift and move as it decomposes. But what if that movement wasn't passive? What if, after being declared clinically dead, a person's heart just restarted, all on its own? This is where things get truly wild. This is the Lazarus Phenomenon, and it is even more astounding than postmortem movement. It's named after that famous biblical story, and the medical term is autoresuscitation. Basically, it's the spontaneous return of a heartbeat and circulation after a medical team has stopped CPR and officially declared a patient dead. I know it sounds impossible. It is unbelievably rare, but it's real. This isn't just a theory or a one-off story. 76. That's the number of officially documented cases of the Lazarus phenomenon that have appeared in medical journals. Now, it's a small number for sure, but it's more than enough to prove that this incredible event actually happens. And those 76 cases, they span the entire globe, popping up in 27 different countries. And it's happened to people of all ages, from a 9-month-old baby all the way to a 97-year-old man. This is a documented, if completely baffling, medical reality. Okay, I know exactly what you're thinking right now. How on earth is this possible? And you're right to ask. There isn't one single confirmed answer, but doctors have some really compelling theories about what might be going on inside the body. So the first big theory is about air pressure. During intense CPR, air can get trapped in the lungs, building up so much pressure that it literally squeezes the heart and stops blood from getting back in. But when the CPR stops, that pressure is released, and sometimes the heart can just kickstart itself. Other ideas? Well, it could be a delayed reaction to resuscitation drugs that finally reach the heart, or the body just naturally fixing an imbalance, like high potassium, that caused the heart to stop in the first place. This is so much more than just a medical curiosity. The very existence of the Lazarus phenomenon, no matter how rare it is, has huge implications for how we define death itself and the rules that govern all of modern medicine. Because this phenomenon exists, medical guidelines have actually changed. The most important new recommendation is that medical teams have to wait and observe a patient for at least 10 minutes after they've stopped resuscitation, all before they can make that final declaration of death. And just look at the ripple effect. For doctors, it forces them to ask, how can we be absolutely certain? For forensic investigators, it raises the wild possibility that a body could have moved after being declared dead. And for ethics, oh man, it creates these incredibly complex questions, especially when it comes to the strict protocols around organ donation. So what actually happens to these patients? The sad reality is that most only survive for a few minutes or hours. But, and this is incredible, at least 6 people are known to have made a complete recovery with 0 lasting brain damage. One 66-year-old man, after being pronounced dead, not only came back, but walked out of the hospital 9 days later and went right back to his normal life. Just wow. All of this, from the simple, restless movements of a body decomposing to the mind-bending reality of autoresuscitation, it forces us to ask a really profound question. It challenges our most basic definitions and leaves us wondering, is death a single final event, or is it actually a process with a boundary that's far, far blurrier than we ever imagined?
Drop your story in the comments. We read every single one, and the most chilling accounts might just be featured in our next deep dive.
Subscribe to GraveCoda for more explorations into the unexplained. Until next time, stay curious and stay watchful.